So I'm finally here. I'm finally here. Even though I started making this and putting this together a number of minutes ago, I had a couple of things come up. I'm holding a funeral today. If you don't know me, my name is Suzanne Titkemeyer. I wrote for Pathos, No Longer Quivering, for something like just under 10 years. I worked on NLQ before that. I see I've run everybody off because I didn't show up when I made this. Well, here I am now. I'm holding a funeral today, a funeral for this Diet Coke. And not just Diet Coke, but eventually a funeral for coffee. Why? I've been having some crazy high blood pressures lately. And I've decided that possibly I need to remove all caffeine from my diet because my blood pressure has been doing usually it's very low and then I have the occasional high spells. Now it's supposed to be high, 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 low, high, 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 low. So we're going to do everything we can to cut every bit of caffeine from our lives. But for now, I'm guzzling this mofo. Okay, I want to talk today a little bit about, hey Maria, about law enforcement. Why? Well, it seems to be the hot topic right now in the States. I don't want to explain how different law enforcement works here in Costa Rica. One of the things about Costa Rica is it's a very safe and peaceful place. There's no military here whatsoever. None of the budget goes to the military, unlike the States. The money they would be spending on military and militarizing the police goes straight into education and healthcare and the things that benefit everybody. So I kind of like that about this place. I like that there is no military. Here's what I don't like. There's a ton of petty thievery. It's like our house. Most gringos and all Costa Ricans that can afford it do this. We have an alarm system on our house. There's a motion detector on the wall. There's an alarm system in the house. There are motion activated cameras. We have a ring out at the gate to see who's trying to come in or knocking on the door, whatever. And I'm not real thrilled with that. I'm not thrilled with the fact that you have to have so much of that crap here, but you do, because if you don't, you're going to get hit with people stealing little minor things all the time. It's petty thievery is big here. And so far, I haven't lost too many things, but I know I have had friends that have had everything they own taken, have come back from trips, and all their televisions and things were gone. We try to avoid that. We try to do everything we can. But here's the thing. Law enforcement is useless here. I'm just going to come right out and call them out. They are pretty much useless. I was going to actually pull up some things about law enforcement to read to you guys here because there was a big case that happened here like 3 years ago that ended up, hey, Bossy 22. It was a big case that ended up here on Fox News. What happened? Well, this guy showed up, overstayed his visa, number one, but number two, he was going around staying in hotels he was bringing prostitutes, he was bringing tons of cocaine and dealers and all that. It's a sad fact here. There's a lot of drugs available. And the police here, they just want to collect their parking tickets, their traffic tickets. The transitos will get you every time. If you speed or you do something you're not supposed to do, they look for gringos. They don't look as much for me because I'm gray-haired, and they have figured out that the gray-haired gringos are hard to shake down for money. So there's that. But I've heard tell of them shaking down tourists for $1,600 to return their passports, all kinds of stuff. The police here are corrupt, and they are useless as tits on a boar hog, as my father used to say. They are pretty useless. And if you have your thing stolen, they'll come make a report and file it, but they won't actually do anything towards actually resolving it. So anyway, we have this guy, this almost 40-year-old man, come to Costa Rica and hang around with prostitutes and drug dealers. He got kicked out of a couple hotels. He got kicked out of a hotel here in Tampa because he was being so disruptive. There was so much noise and prostitutes and drug dealers coming in and out of his hotel room that even the hotel said, enough, gringo, enough. So they kicked him out, and all sorts of crazy things started happening at that point. At that point, the police were involved, and they actually had to do something, and they had to justify what they were doing to Fox News, where it got really bizarre at that point. At one point, they were chasing this guy because they knew he had drugs and various things, and he started running from them. And he was so high or drunk or whatever, he jumped into a recycling bin of glass, a glass recycling bin on the beach, I think it was. And he was thrashing around in there and he was getting himself all cut up. So once they extracted him from the glass and took him to the hospital to treat all the zillions of cuts he had, they took him to SEMA near I think SEMA near Liberia, if I recall right, because this is a long time ago. He jumped out of the window at the hospital with all of his oozing cuts or whatever. He jumped out of the window in his hospital gown and ran off. And they found him again with hookers and drug dealers and various types. They scooped him up and deported him. They took him to the airport. They put him on the plane. There was no staying in Costa Rica because he was just way too crazy and messy. So back to the States he went. When he got to the States, he concocted a story about having been grabbed up by the drug dealers and the prostitutes and held for ransom, which is not at all what happened. And it was interesting because the Costa Rican police had to come up with their narrative then about what happened, what they did. And you don't see that too often. They're usually not very forthcoming about anything they're doing here. But that time they were, and it was pretty obvious. He was just another drunken, messy tourist thinking he was going to come here and sleep with every hooker and snort every ounce of blow he could get his hands on. So his family was on Fox News ranting and crying about Costa Rica and saying how Costa Rican authorities need to be punished and all that. Nope, not happening here. And most of the time, the police here are just here to make sure the tourists don't get too terribly ripped off or nobody murders anyone else, because the jails here are primitive. You do not want to be snatched up and put in one. There was a lady named Ann Bender. If you're ever bored, Google the case of Jon and Ann Bender, millionaires. We actually toured the property before we bought this house because they were selling lots at the Bender estate, because the government had seized the Bender estate and bumped off her husband. At least I believe, it's my considered opinion, that she killed him. She says that he committed suicide by shooting himself in the back of the head with a pistol. And she had gunshot residue on her hands. He did not have it on his. So there's so much evidence that this woman bumped her husband off. And it's been one of those things in Costa Rica. They've gone back and forth. They've convicted her, they've overturned the conviction, they've convicted her again, they've overturned the conviction. Because Costa Rica does not have double jeopardy laws, they can just keep trying you indefinitely. If it takes them the mind to do that, they can do that. And right now they're talking about trying Ann Bender yet again. The Benders were some kind of billionaires. And, I should say Jon Bender was a billionaire. His wife was just whatever he gave her. So it looked pretty obvious that it was her killing him from the evidence I've seen and reading through the trial transcripts. I'm a true crime junkie, too. She's still claiming to this day that she didn't kill him. And here's the other thing about her. She had another husband she married who died also. So she's had some kind of squishy circumstances going on there. I don't know if she killed the second one, but I believe she killed that first one. Anyway, it's a good example of what happens with law enforcement here, because law enforcement went into their zillion-dollar house and started stealing everything, including like $3 million in loose gemstones, and saying, evidence. Yeah, so that is a real danger here. You may end up losing things because of how corrupt the system is here. You have to know how to play the system. You have to know who to pay off and who not to. That's the bad thing here. Well, here's another sticky Costa Rican subject. Hitman. Recently was suggested to my husband because he paid a local something like $150 to obtain some rare parts for my husband's motorcycle, because it's an older motorcycle. It's a Yamaha 650, and I think it's like a 1982. I don't know. He was driving it when we got it, when we started dating. Hang it with. So this guy took this money off of him to buy the parts. Said, I'll get these parts for you, no problem. Well, the guy disappeared. So recently, one of our friends here, a Greek friend, told my husband and says, you really want your money back? Hire a hitman. Apparently, a hitman can be ordered here in Costa Rica between $35 and $50. And what they do is they do the stuff the police won't do. They'll show up at the house, threaten to beat him up if he doesn't refund the money. Sometimes people get killed. I mean, I think that's really awful, but apparently it's the way that some things work here. As long as you stay away from that, I think you're fine. I would not do that. My husband was like, you want me to pay a guy to beat him up to get the mere $150 back? So he was as horrified as I that this was actually the solution suggested. So there is that. We'll never do that. We're not lawbreakers. Maybe somebody else might do that. So let's compare that to the States. Here is kind of everything is pura vida. Everything is laid back, even law enforcement here. Like I said, they usually don't do a whole lot. They'll file a denuncia for you. I have filed a few denuncias since I've been here, mostly against people in the States who were stalking me, but denuncias. And you can get a restraining order on anybody, not a temporary restraining order, but a restraining order for free through the police. So there's that. So it's just because the culture is laid back. That's why law enforcement here is so different. So I wanted to veer and go towards the Gabby Petito murder. I don't know why I'm saying murders. Gabby, I mean, it looks pretty obvious to me that the boyfriend did it. Brian Laundrie, what a name. I want to say Landry. I'm related to a pile of Landrys in Louisiana, but the boy's name is Laundrie. It just looks like a tragic situation from here, and it looks like law enforcement is literally doing everything they can. They're literally shaking the trees and the swamplands there where he supposedly disappeared to. I'm not entirely up on the case. I watched a little bit of it in the States. It's a tragic situation. But one of the things that I do know about true crime and people who report on true crime, and even the regular media like CBS, NBC, CNN, they sometimes cloud the issues and they sometimes don't help. You know, I keep thinking back to the Jon Benet Ramsey case, where a lot of the investigation was media driven. The media decided the parents had done it, that the mother had killed Jon Benet, and there was no other anybody that the police looked at all. Their theory from day one, and their theory, and the thing that the media was pushing was that the mother had done it, the mother or the father, or the mother and the father. And evidence has since come out to clear both of them, to clear the mother and the father. But they lived under that cloud for some years because of the media, because the way that these things went on. Now, I understand everybody's interested in the Gabby Petito case because she was a very prominent YouTuber. I get the fascination. But at the same time, I think all the breathless coverage that journalists, non-journalists, are doing, they're just hampering the investigation. They just need to give the most basic information and sit the hell down and let this thing play out. I was talking to a friend of mine about this the other day. Do I think he's still alive? I'm not sure. Do I think he's in that swamp? I'm not sure of that either. It looks like the family wants them to think that he's in the swamp and they're dragging the swamp and not looking anywhere else. But at the same time, there's just no telling where that boy actually is. But wherever he is, he needs to come out. I mean, this needs to end. This is one of those things that's just drug on too long. Be a man. Fess up. If you killed her, come forward and tell your story. If you didn't kill her, but you know who did, you should probably do the same thing. I feel bad for her. I can't hardly look at the pictures of her because she resembles my youngest child just way too much. And when I see a picture of that poor child, I just know the devastation that her parents probably feel. I have a tiniest little inkling of what that would be. And I cannot imagine that going on while you're trying to bury your child. I can't imagine having to listen to the news reports. I can't imagine what that would be like. It would be terrible. I think that's something that the news media needs to learn is maybe that with some of these things, they just need to cover them a little differently than they do, with more compassion for the victim's family. I don't for the life of me, I can't understand all this insatiable greed for detail in such a horrible thing. Let the details come out later after this has already been dealt with. But for now, give the family some space, some privacy. Yeah, I'm drooling again. Lyrica is such fun. And just go from there. I'd like to see that happen. But I know it's not likely. That's one thing that is really true and sure about a lot of law enforcement in the States. They're leakers. Everybody likes to come forward and say, hey, I knew this person and this is what I think. Everybody loves to do that. And I get it. Everybody's interested. But maybe this is one of the things that maybe we shouldn't be so interested in, that we should give the family space. That's why I've recently turned against the whole true crime genre, even though I actually wrote a book that had gone to be edited on a true crime that happened 40 plus years ago. I don't think I'll ever publish that book. A member of the family approached and said, please don't. So I didn't. I've stopped everything. Yeah. Pork wants into the bedroom. Yeah, Pork wants into the bedroom to drink milk. Pork is one of our cats, the silliest of sillies. And where was I going to go with this? I actually had a direction that I was going to go with all of this. Now, I don't know. Oh, I haven't shown you guys the yarn that I bought yet. I didn't buy exciting yarn this time. I bought a big pile of Red Heart because I just want to do a basic Afghan for the living room. So as soon as I finally get everything completely unpacked and put away, I'll show you guys my non-exciting Red Heart. It's in shades of burgundy, golds, and off-white, beige sort of things, because that's kind of the color scheme we got going on in the living room until we paint. So I wanted something that would go with both. And I haven't gotten around to wallpapering the fridge yet, or any of the things that I said I was going to do. But I think I'm going to veer and do some art things. Like I want to do a series on painting. I do oil paints. I've always painted in oils or acrylics, but mostly oils. And one of the things I love about painting in oils is it's wide open. You can melt wax and mix it with your paints. You can use saran wrap to sculpt the paint to make it look any way you want. There's a million trillion little things you can do to make it look wild. I have painted with odd objects. I've painted with spoons. I've painted with pieces of saran wrap just because I'm bored with the whole let's paint with a brush thing. Even though I do still love to paint with brush. Oil paint is in my blood, but I have to get a little bit better. My health has got to get a little better. And I'm trying right now to clean out my closet. I don't know about you guys, but I've accumulated a ton of crap in my closet. And some of it doesn't fit. I discovered this top. I didn't even realize I still had this. I bought this 10 years ago, and I think I've worn it twice. So I'm trying to do better about all of that. So maybe we can have a conversation about recycling and new ways to use stuff. Always watch, but don't comment. Thanks, Suzanne. OP, yeah, no problem. Right back at you. Thanks for showing up to watch. So I'm thinking about doing all that. I had somebody that was critical the other day because I had not mentioned Pestilence Adams, as I call her now. I used to call her without a box of Kleenex. And when I get trolls from now on, I'm just going to squirt them with some lovely disinfectant that I love. It's made with lavender oils. Squash them and move on, because I'm kind of done with all of that. Yes, I did sign up for Todd Chrisley's class action lawsuit. Yes, that's going on. I'm going to try not to talk about her in any way, shape, or form, because I don't want to add to that. And I see how she's doing with the Gabby Petito thing. Her coverage of Gabby Petito is one of the reasons why I had to speak up today and say, but she's hardly the only one. There are a ton of YouTubers out there and a ton of regular media that's behaving disgracefully over the entire thing. They're just making hay over this like it's something to be discussed. So there's that. And yeah, I'm ranting today. I guess my medication must have just finally kicked in. So there's that. You can hear I'm breathing heavy today. I'm not quite myself. I've got 10 trillion loads of laundry to fold and put away. I've got so many things I put off because coming back from my trip, I was just wiped out. It was not a good trip on so many levels. And at some point I'm gonna unpack that too, because I think there's some things to be learned with how we have to navigate relatives. And sometimes it doesn't go well, no matter what tactic we try. And I don't know about you, but I have members of my own family that I have had to just not have much to do with, as much as I love them. It's from a distance, because I have enough other stuff going on in my life. I can't take any more stress. So there's that, even though I do love them from a distance. Okay, you guys, I'm going to go ahead on and go because I'm just rambling and ranting. But I wanted you to get a little bit of a sense for what law enforcement is like in Costa Rica and how different it is in America. In Costa Rica, they might take a report. Oh, we'll take this report and write it in Nuncia, and maybe this will happen. But in the States, they'll be shaking the trees looking for you. But there are a ton of people missing here too. And it does disturb me that people have made this about white-black. This is not about white-black. Gabby is so much in the news because she was a prominent YouTuber, and everybody's interested in that kind of crap. I would like to see Black women, Black men, Indians, every other race covered as with as much focus as they're doing on Gabby Petito, but I don't think it's because she's white. And I have to line it with BX Beast Boy and the Officer Tatum on this. I think it's because she was a YouTuber. I don't think it has a thing in this world to do about race. Now, in years past, if you were a rich white girl, you got the media attention. I think that shifted a little bit. I think that has shifted. I don't think that's quite as much as it used to be. So I thought about that quite a bit too, particularly seeing how many Native American women are now missing that have never been focused on in the media. That's a real travesty in this entire thing. Apparently, it's open season on Native American women. Nobody investigates when they go missing. I don't know how the tribal police work with the regular police, but it seems not to be a priority, and that's really just quite wrong. I'd like to see them receive similar pushes to look for, even though I know law enforcement does not have that kind of money. I know it wouldn't happen here to say, oh, let's take a report. Maybe we'll find her. So don't go missing here. Okay, I'll talk to you guys later.